Okay, first, a lot of gratitude. Thank you so much for allowing us to do this. My team feels like we've got a purpose that is top of the line right now, and all the feedback we're getting from you has been fabulous. Thank you for all your comments. It motivates us a lot to keep moving forward with this. So yesterday we saw that, oh, do I have that backwards? Oh, it's not even going to show. So yesterday it was 27% of all the confirmed cases in the world are in the US. This is today's numbers, and it's gone up. Let me see if I can just slide this down to the old numbers for you. No, I don't think I can. But it was 27% yesterday, but we're almost at 400,000 cases in the US, confirmed cases. And the US is still the #1 country in the world. And we know that the peak in New York is expected to start dropping down in the next couple days, but the peak in California is not expected until April 28th. That's what they just reported this morning from Johns Hopkins. And there's a bunch of slides on that, and I didn't put them here. But just know that in every state that is a little slower in responding with numbers, they're going to get larger. Most of us are being exposed to this or have been exposed. The question is our body competent enough to deal with the exposure, or does our body need some help? And today is about, if our body needs help, what kind of help do we do? So why is the US? I'm just going to review a couple of points because it's really important we get this. And people are like, oh no, not again. You know, people don't want to hear this, but we have to hear it. The reason that the US is the #1 country in the world with confirmed cases, if we're getting accurate information out of China, and there's a lot of question about that right now, about what their numbers are. But why in the rest of the world are we #1? Because only 12% of Americans are metabolically healthy. 1 in 2 of us has diabetes or pre-diabetes. That is not supposed to be the case. That is not normal. It's common, but it's not normal. 1 in 3 of us have non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. 75% of Americans are overweight. And if you're overweight, it's double the risk of having a severe reaction to an exposure to this virus. 42% of us are obese, and it's triple the risk, over triple the risk of having a severe reaction if we're exposed to this virus. So those are the numbers which have a lot to do with why is America #1 in the world in showing symptoms with this thing. It's not that we're the only ones being exposed. People are being exposed in France and in Germany and in Luxembourg and Italy and everywhere else. But why are we the #1 country with confirmed cases? And it's because we're not metabolically healthy as a people. That's the takeaway. Next month, in 2 months, when all this calms down, that's the takeaway, is that, wow, I guess, you know, if I got a little bit sick, then my immune system is not really strong enough to handle this. So once again, the slides with pearls, these are pearls, pick up on them. And my mentor, Dr. Jeffrey Bland, has said, don't forget that COVID is a lifestyle disease. How we've lived our lives so far determines our vulnerability. Now, there are a few of us that have genetic vulnerabilities that we haven't activated those genes to make it worse, that we just have that vulnerability, but not many. For most of us, the genes that we have that cause the diseases we get are activated by how we live our lifestyle. Remember, and I did not talk about this, and I could have and just didn't think of it, that 70% of the diseases we get are not determined by our genes. They're determined by what's going on around the genes. That's called epigenetics. Does the gene for Alzheimer's get turned on or not? Does the gene for breast cancer get turned on or not? That if you have the gene for Alzheimer's, it doesn't mean you're going to get it. It means that you're vulnerable, but does that gene get turned on or not? That's called epigenetics, what's happening around the genes. And what do we mean by that? What you eat, how stressed you are, how many stress hormones your body is making every day. If you live in a moldy house and you're breathing mold all the time, all of the things about our lifestyle have a great deal to do with which genes get turned on and which genes do not. And This is a lifestyle disease that we're going through right now, meaning do the genes get turned on to protect us, or are they turned off, and our immune system can't do the job that it's supposed to do? And so if you get sick with this current situation that we're under, one of the takeaways, once you get well, let's all pray that you do the right things when you get well. One of the takeaways is, okay, I don't want to be in that state of vulnerability in the future for me or my kids. You know, my son got a little fever for a day and then he was fine. Well, wait a minute. No, that's not okay. Go back to day 5 when we talked about fevers. Fever is a good thing, but it meant that the immune system, your monocytes, your natural killer cells, the innate immune system wasn't strong enough to deal with this thing by itself. So then your body had to call up reserves. All right, let's get a fever here. Let's see if we can get rid of this virus with the fever. That's when you get a fever. It's not a first response. It's a backup. And it's a good backup. But the takeaway is, I guess my innate immune system isn't quite strong enough right now. So I'm going to spend a little bit of time. And if you remember, I talked about 1 hour a week. I'm going to spend a little bit of time to look into how do I strengthen my innate immune system? And you spend 1 hour a week at this. You read some of my things, my books. You read some of the other functional medicine practitioners' books. You go to websites of people that you trust. You just start learning a little more. You learn that vitamin C is really good for you. Vitamin D is really good for you. Quercetin is really good for you. Start learning about these things one by one by one after you're out of crisis. We're in crisis time right now, and so everybody wants, what's the answer? And we're going to talk about what do you do if you get sick, but it's important in my mind that the takeaway from all this for you is a reevaluation if the current lifestyle is adequate for you or for your children. Your kids got sick with this? Current lifestyle, something about lifestyle is not okay. Well, I feed my kids well. Yeah, how often do they get tricks or sugared cereals? Or how often do they get candy? Or how often do they get Kool-Aid or, whatever, high sugar drinks or lots of carbohydrates? And are they packing a little spare tire around their midsection? Are they a little bit overweight? There's these little things that we have to start looking at on a checklist. How healthy are my kids? If your kids had a reaction to this, their immune system will benefit from putting this much attention on it over the next number of months. And we'll help you with that and many complementary, integrative, holistic, functional medicine practitioners. That's the whole basis of how they practice. That's why health coaches are so important. It's health coaches who are the ones that allocate the time. Now that's coaches, nutritionists, registered dietitians. They allocate the time to walk hand in hand with you on this journey. Most doctors don't have the time to do this, to give you recipes. They'll give you a handout or something, but they're too busy. So hopefully they've got nutritionists and registered dietitians and health coaches, functional medicine health coaches on their team who they can say, please see Kathy. And Kathy's going to have 3 or 4 sessions with you in the next month and talk about food selections and how to combine foods and what spices are great to strengthen your immune system and so many things to learn, but just one little bit a week, like 1 hour a week to learn these things. I hope that's a takeaway that we all get. If you've had symptoms, even minor, oh, it wasn't that big a deal. Great. Well, next time, it may be a big deal if your immune system continues to be inadequate in thoroughly doing the job. Excuse me for telling you this, but if you got sick, you got a problem with your immune system. You get flus once a year, you got a problem with your immune system. It's not able to fight the flu bug when you're exposed to the virus. Your immune system is not able to fight it. It knocks you down for a few days or a week every year or a couple times a year. You got a problem. Those are the people, when they come in on new patient exams and I see their history, how often do you get the cold or a flu? Oh, just once or twice a year, doc. And how long does it last? Oh, no more than a week, a couple times 2 weeks, but usually no more than a week. Those are people in the back of my mind. I don't care what they're presenting with. Is there a cancer going on here? Now, why do I say that? Because cancer requires weakened immune systems for the damaged cells to grow and propagate into cancer cells. So recurrent colds, recurrent flus, you got a compromised immune system. So I want to make sure we all understand that. So when we're out of this crisis, you spend 1 hour a week going into how do I strengthen my immune system. And this is a drawing that I've shown you from the other day. This comes from medcram.com, a great place to go to get great information on a daily basis. There's 3 different windows of when to put attention on this. So the purple box on the lower left side, that's before you have an exposure. How strong is your resistance? How strong is your immune system to deal with the things that you're exposed to? The green box in the middle, that's after you've been exposed if you start developing symptoms. That usually takes about 5 days. Sore throat, slight fever, a little gas or diarrhea. If you're starting getting symptoms, that you interpret that as my immune system is a little bit compromised. So in the future, when I get through this, I'm going to work on strengthening that immune system. That's what this green box is. And the more you work in this area with minor symptoms, the less likely you are to follow this strong dotted line, not dotted, the straight line that drops down that about 80% of people who get symptoms will have to go to the hospital. So notice the dotted line. Can we drop that 80% down? I'm sorry, I said it backwards. 20% of the people will have to go to the hospital, 80% won't. Can we drop that 20% line down so it's less than 20%? Meaning, in this area of the green box, can we help immediately to strengthen the immune system? And the answers are yes. If you go back to day 5, we talked about saunas. I showed you a couple of studies on saunas. You go back to day 2, I talked about vitamin D and vitamin C, just some basics, and I show you the studies on those. So the answer is yes. In this green box, there is a lot that can be done. Don't eat any bad foods, all those foods, you know, I really shouldn't eat too much of that. Don't eat it right now at all. And it's hard because a lot of us at home, it's really stressful to be at home. You know, we aren't used to being around our families 24 hours a day, every day. And for some people, it's creating more stress in the home environment. That's where being conscious of this and having a little more patience with your child or your spouse or your parents, having a little more understanding that we're all a little on edge here goes a long way. And one of the recommendations I made, I think it was yesterday, was pick 3 friends that you haven't talked to in a while. Reach out to them, give them a call, or send them an email. Say, hey, how you doing, man? How's it going? And reach out to the people that you just haven't had the time to reach out to in a while. You know, interact, create that social network. Remember, I talk about social network with the blue zones, how important they are. So build your own social network for that. And in this purple box, that's where so many things from the book, You Can Fix Your Brain, come into play. Don't forget about washing hands right now, but about lifestyle and the base hits that we develop in our lifestyle habits. For example, when you learn that shower heads, a film develops. It's called a biofilm on the inside of shower heads. You live in warm climates, within a month, there's a biofilm inside there. And what is that? That's bacteria that's in the water, the drinking water. And there's not a lot of bacteria in municipal drinking water, but there's a little, but it's not enough to make you sick. But what happens when you turn the shower off, the water going up the pipe to the shower head, it sits there, and the bacteria that's in that water starts secreting this polymer. It's like a hard plastic. It makes a biofilm up there against the shower head, and that biofilm is like a plastic, and the bacteria repopulates, builds more colonies of bacteria inside the biofilm. And then you turn the shower on and you get hit with thousands and thousands of bacteria of Klebsiella or Pseudomonas. So anyone that has sinus infections, eye inflammation, ear infections, sore throats, just think about, am I getting bathed? And so what do you do in the meantime until you can clean your shower head? When you reach in and turn the shower on, don't go in there, just turn it on. 5 seconds, 10 seconds, let the water just blast out so you aren't taking that first shot of water. And the way you clean a shower head is with vinegar. But the vinegar you buy in the store, 6% doesn't work very well, really doesn't work. It has to be 8% or higher. Now, Michelle Ross, one of my director of clinical services, we were talking yesterday. She used 30% vinegar. You can order it online. It's really cheap. And she just soaked her shower head in it overnight. And she said it was unbelievable. The water pressure was so much more afterwards, after she did that, which tells her how much of a biofilm and how much crud was up in her shower head. And they compared shower heads in Hawaii and Colorado, and they all had bacteria in them. And when they replaced the shower heads within 30 days, the Hawaii ones were loaded again. The Colorado ones took about a year, 18 months. What does that mean? It means hot temperature areas in the world, you get more biofilm more quickly. So you got to clean your shower heads once a month, once every couple of months. Really easy to do. But that's just like one of the little pearls that you learn about in You Can Fix Your Brain, right? It's all these little things you do that reduce the exposure. In this example, the shower head, it reduces your exposure, which demands that your immune system fights this stuff that you're inhaling and swallowing in the water that gets in your mouth. So then your immune system is having to waste its precious energy on things it shouldn't have to do. And we talked about all the chemicals in the environment that we're exposed to. And that's the primary reason why we have so many people with compromised immune systems who are in this 20% range that are getting more severe symptoms and having to go to the hospital. The primary reason is because all of the toxins we're exposed to in our life now that no humans in history have ever been exposed to before, ever. I didn't say this the other day, but I'm going to take a moment to tell you this because this is important to understand. Mrs. Patient, you have the exact same body as your ancestors thousands of years ago. You got the same kidneys, they work the same bladder, the same gallbladder, the same joints, the surfaces on the joints are the same, everything's the same. We use our brains more now, and we've developed creature comforts and food year round, but we have the same bodies. What did our ancestors' immune system have to fight every day to protect them? Bugs, parasites, viruses, mold, fungus, and bacteria. That was it. Well, what about perchloroethylene? There was no such thing. What about benzene? There was no such thing. What about bisphenol A, BPA? There was no such thing. We don't have an immune system designed to protect us from the chemicals that we live with in our world every day right now. We don't have an immune system designed to protect us. When we're exposed to something, our immune system can only treat it like a bug, parasite, virus, mold, fungus, or bacteria. What does that mean? It's all inflammation. Your immune system responds with inflammation. You get exposed to bisphenol A, BPA, because you're drinking out of a plastic water bottle that sat in the sun, and the BPA from the plastic is leaching into the water, and you drink the water, you get exposed to BPA, it binds onto your thyroid and many other tissues, but just Google BPA and thyroid, you'll see the studies. It binds onto your thyroid, it produces that neoepitope I talked about the other day, and your immune system has to fight that neoepitope. Your immune system is wasting its precious energy having to protect you against things it's not designed to protect you from. And it tries to destroy that stuff. And when that stuff accumulates over 20, 30, 40, 50 years, your immune system is constantly wasting so much of its energy against these toxic chemicals. That's why detox is so important. There's an entire chapter in the book on detox, so you can think about what does it mean to detox and how do I do that? And there's a whole world of learning you do around that. So maybe 1 hour a week, you're going to spend learning about detox. 6 months from now, a year from now, your skin's different. Your hair is different. People say, wow, you look so much younger. What are you doing? You say, well, I've been learning more about detox and I'm making sure to stay hydrated. I've been taking a couple supplements, but these foods really help. You're learning all this stuff and it shows, but it doesn't show in a day or a week, right? That's why it's so important to understand if you're getting sick at all right now, even minor amount, your immune system needs some help. So the takeaway here, my immune system needs some help, okay? I'm not in crisis right now, but I'm gonna spend a little time in the next number of months helping my immune system. So the first one that I'm going to talk about is and I talked about these slides yesterday, but let's talk about this one. What is it in lifestyle that I can do that prevents me when I'm exposed to things, like in this first 5 days of being exposed to this virus? What is it in my lifestyle that I can do that strengthens my immune system so I don't get a sore throat? I don't get loose bowels. I don't get any symptoms whatsoever. What is it? And we know about this one. We don't know about this one. I want everyone, when we're done here, to go to CNN and type in Chris Cuomo, that he got hit with the virus. And he talks about what's the mindset that you have to have in order to lick this thing. And this is for people, minor symptoms and all the way through major symptoms. Really well done. It's 4 minutes long. Just write down CNN, Chris Cuomo. And you can listen to what he has to say. He's right on the money. He doesn't talk about a drug or any nutrition or anything like that. He talks about your will and talks about how you have to look at this thing. And critically important concept about how do you hold this? How do you hold this whole paradigm of what's going on right now? So that's just a great little pearl, 4 minutes long. You'll enjoy it. But the first thing we do in that 0 to 5 day period, or in that period before we have any symptoms, how do we strengthen our immune system to protect us from anything that we're exposed to, if at all possible, to protect us from it, is by what's on the end of your fork. Nothing is more important than that. So go back to day 3, I think it was, or day 4, in Dr. Deanna Minnick's article that I gave you with 164 or 168, I don't remember, foods, and which polyphenols each food has, and what those polyphenols help you with. And you'll see many of them: immune system, immune system, immune system. So, and have the variety. The goal is 8 to 10 different colors a day, every day. The more the better, the more the better. So that's a critically important concept. I can just hear there's some people that say, oh, come on now, what pill can I take? I'll get to the nutrition, but that doesn't fix it if what's on the end of your fork is gasoline on the fire. You're having too much sugar, gasoline on the fire. Your immune system is being tapped to fight the sugar and fight the damage. There's 106 different damages from eating sugar, 106 different mechanisms that have been identified on what sugar does in your body. And remember, 1 out of 2 of us are now either diabetic or pre-diabetic in the US. So this is rampant. This is a pandemic in the US of obesity and blood sugar problems that we had. Can you imagine? 40% of us are overweight and 20-some% of us are obese. That's a pandemic in the US that we just are blind to and say, yeah, well, whatever. No, we really want to put some attention on that one. And I talked about the blue zones. This is the protocol before you get sick on how to help you stay well. This is where the pedal hits the metal. No one in the world gets better results than these blue zone people living a life like this. It doesn't happen. So as you get the Blue Zones book and read more about it, maybe 1 hour a week in there, I summarize it in my book, You Can Fix Your Brain, about these 9 different concepts. And the only one that, if this is the first day that someone's joining us, number 2, Hari Hachibu, means eat 20% less. Because the hormones that are produced to tell your brain you're full when you're eating are 20 minutes behind when you're actually full. And so if you eat 20% less and then you wait 20 minutes, you're full. You feel great. So pick up on Blue Zones. I think you'll appreciate it. Now, I'm going to put together a video today with Marzi on an osteopathic lymphatic pump technique. So it's called the Spleen pump. This was 1978. I was in my first year of my education. I was just starting to study with one of my mentors, Dr. George Goodhart. I was at the office one day. My wife called and said, Kelly's sick, and that's our daughter. She was 8 months old. She has 105 fever. I said, what? I immediately left the office, had the staff reschedule all the patients, went home, picked up my daughter, and she was really hot, and she was just limp on me. You know, her body was dead weight. And my wife had been cooking dinner. There was spaghetti on the stove that she was about to serve when she noticed that Kelly was sick and just turned it off. I'm walking around with my daughter, you know, holding her, just kind of gently tapping her. And we had called the pediatrician, but the pediatrician hadn't called back yet. So I'm walking around. Where's that doctor? Where's that damn doctor? Wait a minute. I'm a doctor. What would I do? And I had just heard about the spleen pump technique from Dr. Goodhart a weekend, 2 weekends before that. So I laid my daughter down and I did the spleen pump technique. Very gentle, very easy. And I gave her a very slight neck adjustment, very soft and easy. With little 8 months old, it's just like this. You know, you can't feel anything. It's just the gentlest of finger pressure. And I picked my daughter up. We're walking around, and within 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes, I don't know, maybe 15. I think over the years it went down to 5, but maybe 10 to 15 minutes. I'm holding her. We walk past the kitchen, and she dives with her hand for the pot of pasta. And my wife and I just looked at each other. I, of course, caught her. We looked at each other, and we checked her temperature. It was 99. In 10 minutes, I've taught hundreds of families over the years the spleen pump technique, and the result has been it often has helped with the kids and with adults. So we'll do the video today, and we'll have it up there later today. And have some patience, because you know it's hard here where we are. The internet is slow to upload video, so it might be there tomorrow morning, you know, but it'll be the spleen pump technique. I'll show you how to do it. Really simple. It's safe for elders. It's safe for everybody. But look at what they say in this article. The application of lymphatic pump technique has been shown to boost antibody response to vaccines, which we talked about testing yesterday, and you want to be tested for antibodies. Hopefully the test will be available next week. We'll give you the heads up as soon as we know. If you sent us a message yesterday, you're on our list, and we'll let you know when the pinprick antibody test is available. That's right on the money and very thorough and comprehensive. But you want antibody response to being exposed to this virus, right? And the lymphatic pump technique increased the antibody response and also increased secretory IgA. Now, what's secretory IgA? Secretory IgA is your first line of defense. Starts in your mouth, in the oral mucosa, and all the way down to the GI tract. They're antibodies that just grab onto something that they recognize shouldn't be here, and they don't let go. So they escort it right out in the bowel movements. It goes all the way through your digestive tract and out in the bowel movements. So people with low secretory IgA are at higher risk of having immune problems because their first line of defense is gone. And the spleen pump technique helped with that. In this study, I'll show you what these lines mean. At the top, these were animals, they exposed these animals to a strep infection, Streptococcus pneumonia. So the strep that causes pneumonia. And the people in the green line were the ones that got the lymphatic pump technique. The people in the red line got nothing. The people in the blue line got a fake technique, meaning they just like touched the animals or something. But look at the difference over time in the amount of bacteria that was still in the body. Dramatic. And in the bottom one, they looked at dosing with antibiotics. So this was an antibiotic that was used, levofloxacin, and at different dosages. And you see the blue line, of course, and all the bacteria was gone. So antibiotics are, of course, more potent than a spleen pump technique. But look at the results on the spleen pump technique in terms of reducing the bacterial load. That's why I've given this to hundreds of families over the years. And here they compared the lymphatic pump technique and antibiotics together, or a sham therapy and antibiotics. A control with antibiotics. Oh, I'm sorry, not antibiotics. PBS is saline, just saline, salt water. So let me say that again. Lymphatic technique plus salt water, a fake technique plus salt water, the controls plus salt water, the lymphatic technique plus antibiotic. And that result, of course, was the very best. At 63% were disease-free, and then the sham and the controls. But so even if you take an antibiotic, including the spleen pump technique with it, helps substantially. So it always helps. So what about in this area? What about if we have some symptoms now? So we're at 5 days into exposure and we're starting to get some symptoms. What do we do? And Eddie, let's bring our guest on when she's here, because this would be a good time. I have a guest coming today, and it's Michelle Ross, our Director of Clinical Services. And let me see if we have a message here. Oh, Eddie said, will do. Okay, so as soon as Michelle comes on, he'll bring her aboard, and we'll talk about this. So in the meantime, I'll talk about a couple of things that I'm going to recommend. We call it the attack bundle. It's like if you have to go after this thing, you're going to go after it. And it's very difficult to give people, hi, Michelle.
Hello, Dr. Tom.
Hi, Michelle. This is Michelle Ross, our Director of Clinical Services at theDr.com.
Hello, everybody.
I'm going to pause on the attack bundle. I'll get back to it. But while we have Michelle here, we had a conversation the other day that just dropped my jaw. And I had never heard of this before. So I'm going to give you a little background to what Michelle's about to tell you. And that is, you remember I talked about the blue zones, and that these cultures where there's large percentage of the population living into their 80s, 90s, over 100, fully functional. In Costa Rica, where Marzi and I are right now, we're in the blue zone of Costa Rica. Or Sardinia and Okinawa. They found a blue zone in Loma Linda, California, just outside of LA. Everyone's like, what? LA, where if you run 10 kilometers, you get as much particulate matter as if you were smoking a pack of cigarettes? Yes, there's a blue zone in Loma Linda. Well, what is different about that one little pocket of people compared to anywhere else in the world or any other developed industrialized culture? Because Okinawa and Sardinia, these are remote third world cultures. What's different in Loma Linda? It's the home of the Seventh-day Adventists. And the Seventh-day Adventists have an entire lifestyle that is very similar, or was very similar, to the other features of the blue zone cultures around the world. And they found it was by identifying the Loma Linda group, the Seventh-day Adventists, and how they lived their lives, that they identified the 9 features of a blue zone lifestyle. So Michelle learned that there is a technique in the world of Seventh-day Adventists for when people that have lung problems. So Michelle, can you tell us a little history about that?
Yes, so this is something that they used to do long ago in sanitariums. So that was before there were hospitals, or maybe they were an alternative to hospitals. But they did a lot of what we would classify today as alternative therapies. And so this is something that's called fomentations. And it's something that my mom used to do on us when we were, actually, Dr. Tom, if you unshare screen just for a minute, then I'll be able to show.
You bet. You bet.
Some of these things. So when we got sick, when we were little, we used to do, she used to give us fomentations. And back then you had to heat up towels in boiling water, and it was pretty cumbersome and was much more difficult. And you'd have to put a towel underneath so you didn't burn the person. But fomentations are something you do across somebody's chest. That you only want to do them with 2 people. So I don't want anyone to try to do this on your own, because you really need somebody to assist you with this. And I'll explain why as I go through this. But now we have something that's called a thermophore. and it's a moist heating pad, and it's very different from heating pads that you may be used to. It has this really soft covering, and you can wash the covering, but as you can see, it's not like the hard plastic ones. So you put this, you turn this on, you make sure the person's lying down, ideally in bed and bundled up. You want their feet to be really warm. So you can wrap the feet in wool or put another heating device on the feet, and you put this across their chest for a full 30 minutes. And you need someone beside them. This is where the second person is important. And I just did this for a friend. I was in New York City at the end of February, the last 3 weeks of February, and there wasn't a lot coming out about COVID-19 then, but I was getting some heads up about it because she has a girlfriend that's involved in the task force, and she's been, so we kind of knew, I knew that I needed to have a mask before I flew back and to fly on the airplane. So I was wearing the mask before anyone else was, looking a little funny. Now it's very common, right? You just go to the grocery store and everybody has masks on. But I arrived and she explained that she had just had a fever and she had this cough and she had terrible chest pain. Well, this is not triggering that she just had coronavirus. I just am thinking that she had the flu. And so I said, okay, so we're going to have to do fomentations, because she said, I'm having such difficulty breathing and my chest is so tight. So I told her she needed to go on Amazon and buy a thermophore. And she said, why am I spending $80 on this heating pad? I have a heating pad in the other room. And I said, well, it's not going to be the same. And it may be $80, but I've had this literally since I was maybe 18. Like it just lasts forever.
And the box still looks good.
The box is not bad. It's a little worn, but you know, and you can wash the cover and they just last forever. So she ordered it, it came the next day, and we did this process. We had to do 3 sessions of it, but you do 3 rounds of 30 minutes with this heating pad. She wore a tank top, and then we did ice. And the ice is not fun, right? Because they've just been warm, but ice for about 30 seconds on the chest, and then another round. The whole time I was taking the washcloth that was on her forehead every couple of minutes, dipping it in this bucket of ice water, rinsing it out, putting it back on, because you really want to keep the head cool. And I had a cup with water and a straw, and I was making sure that she was drinking water the whole time. So this takes an hour and a half plus the minutes it takes to run and get the ice in between each session, right? So it's not for the faint of heart, but it made all the difference. And it finally, after the 3rd session, released this constriction and this awful pain and this difficulty she was having breathing in her chest. And she was able to, the cough lingered for, I guess, probably the 3 weeks after that I was still there, but she was doing much better overall. So I think that this could be just something that could work if somebody, you know, has the flu, or, that works for many other things besides flu. And we can post the link to, there's some instructions at the very bottom. It says thermophore after it says the towels and everything. But if you try it with the boiling towels, it's just pretty messy and pretty cumbersome. And the person trying to manage the towels is burning themselves. And the person with the hot towels getting them put on their chest is feeling, you can't control that heat, right? Whereas the thermophore, you can control consistently hot heat the whole time in that 30 minutes.
Michelle, a couple of questions. You said it took 3 times of doing it. So
3 sessions. So
yeah.
We did it 3 days in a row.
Oh, one session a day.
So you do 3 rounds. So you do 30 minutes of the heating pad ice, 30 minutes of heating pad ice, 30 minutes of heating pad ice. That counts as 1 round of fomentations. And we did that 3 days in a row. She was feeling better each time, but it wasn't till after the third session that she really, like, everything broke loose in the chest, all that congestion and constriction and the difficulty breathing. And she was fine with breathing after that.
So I want to preface and say this is not in place of calling your doctor when you feel sick.
Exactly.
Please do not say, well, I'm just going to do this. I'm not going to call the doctor. No, 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 no. You feel sick, you call the doctor. But as you've heard, so many people, they go to the hospital, they're sent home. And because there's not enough room for them at the hospital. If that's the case and you're going home, what can you do when you're home? Fomentations is one of the things that you can do.
And don't do it on your own, and don't set somebody up and leave the room, right? Don't go like work in their other room or take a phone call. You need to be there with the person the whole time, because you need to keep an eye on them, and you want to, you just want to be there watching the person, and you have to keep changing that. It heats up because there's so much heat emanating from their body that washcloth heats up really quickly. I would take that off of her head and it was like warm, and I'm thinking I just had dipped this in ice water. So you really need a second person there the entire hour and a half.
You know, as you're talking about that, I'm reminded that at the Swiss Mountain Clinic in Switzerland that Marzi and I host people at every year, they have a very special instrument to induce hyperthermia. It's almost like a suntan bed, and you go in there, and there's a thermometer that goes up your butt so that monitor your body temperature. But then you're laying in there, and it's generating heat, and you see it goes to 99 to 100 to 100.5 and 100.9 and 101, and the person on the outside, the nurse, or in our case, Marzi for me and me for her, putting those cool compresses on the forehead are just so relieving. They feel great. And I got up to, I think it was 102.5. Is that right? Marzi's like, no. Marzi got up to 104. I mean, it's unbelievable.
Wow.
But this was to kill parasites, to induce a fever, to kill bacteria, to kill viruses in your body. So for all of those that have chronic infections, the concept is, and if you have lung problems, this concept of fomentation is an excellent one.
We're so afraid, Dr. Tom, of fevers, when fevers are a natural way that our body is protecting us, right? Now, fevers can get to a dangerous level, absolutely. But yes. The Sonovive Medical Institute has that same machine, and they use it for so many cancer, so many different things. I don't know if I say that because they can't, they're not allowed to treat cancer, right? But there's so many different things that you can use where when you heat your body to that temperature, 104 is pretty impressive, Marzi, you're a rock star. But even 102 is impressive because it's not comfortable often, right?
Not at all. No. Yeah. I acknowledge, I guess I'm a wuss. I ride a Harley, but I'm a wuss. So
no, 102 is not a wuss.
Okay.
Most people are taking pain or fever reduction medication at 99. So that's not a wuss, Dr. Tom.
Well, thank you, Michelle. It's very kind. How do you spell? We've got a handout that'll be part of the downloads for you, all about this. So don't worry about that.
Okay.
Got a few more slides to go through. So Michelle, thank you so very much. Thank you so much for joining us.
Absolutely, Dr. Tom. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, let's go back to the slides and the attack bundle. Now, if you go back and you listen to day 2, I talked about vitamin D and how important it is to get tested. And we gave you the type of test to do. A finger prick is really easy to do. Ask your doctor for a finger prick test. It's also on our website if you want to go there for it. But it's best to know what your vitamin D level is so that you can either get aggressive in building up your vitamin D level or maintenance levels. Right now, if you are feeling any symptoms of sore throat, a little bit of a fever, 10,000 units of vitamin D per day is safe. It's safe for a couple of weeks to be doing that. I showed the studies the other day on that. Vitamin C, a buffered vitamin C. If you have access, very few people have access to IVs of vitamin C right now, but there are some, doctors' offices are open, and are a large percentage of naturopathic doctors in the country are doing nutritional IVs in their offices, and others, but I think there's a high percentage of naturopathic doctors if your local area has those practitioners. And you can get IVs of high doses of vitamin C. The studies coming out of China have shown it was very effective within 24 hours. If you don't have access to IVs of vitamin C, you can titrate up your dosing. And how do you do that? Now, I personally take 4,000 a day every morning. I talk about 2 glasses of water when you wake up. Everybody wakes up, they go to the bathroom. Very next thing, have 2 big glasses of water. I put a scoop of, I use Vitality C in there, and that's 4,000 units a scoop. And now, during these days, I'm doing 2 scoops a day, 1 scoop twice a day. But using a powdered vitamin C is the easiest if you can get it. If not, liposomal vitamin C is excellent. It penetrates, gets right into your tissue, or capsules. Any type of vitamin C is better than no vitamin C. And you can start by taking 500 milligrams or 1,000 milligrams per hour, every waking hour, and count how many times you've taken it. And if you go through the day and everything's fine, okay, next day you wake up, you do it again. And at some point, you're gonna notice you're getting some gas, maybe a little loose bowels, a little diarrhea, and you count, okay, how many did I have today? I had 10 servings, so that's 10,000 milligrams of vitamin C. Okay, that's my bowel threshold. I got a little bit of gas, or I got a little bit of diarrhea. So the next day, you start with 1,000 per hour, and you stop at 75% of the dose they gave you the gas. So if it was 10 servings, you would have 7 servings, 7.5 servings. And you stay at that dose, and you space them out a little bit more, but you stay at that dose for as many days until you get a little gas or a little diarrhea. When you do, say, okay, that was 7.5. Now tomorrow I'll do 75% of that, which will be about 4 to 5. And then you space them out during the day, so you're not having it as frequently. Now you're having 4,000 or 5,000 units a day every day. That's the dose you take. That's called titrating up your vitamin C. Some doctors say don't take the oral stuff because it gives you diarrhea and you can only absorb so much. Well, you go up to that border, to find out what your body can handle, which is completely determined by your microbiome. So the more diverse your microbiome, the more vitamin C you can take, right? That's vitamin C. Next in my toolkit is some proteolytic enzymes called wobenzyme. And wobenzyme, that's a typo error. There's no E, it's W-O-B-E-N-Z-Y-M. Wobenzyme, and there's 3 different wobenzymes. I like N, but any one of them are great. Proteolytic enzymes are like Pac-Man. They go through your bloodstream and just digesting any debris that's around. Many, many studies on the benefits of proteolytic enzymes. If my immune system is under distress, I'm taking 10 of these twice a day right now. And they come in bottles of 800, which is quite a bit, or smaller bottles. And I'm doing 10. For someone that weighs about 125 pounds or so, you could do 5, somewhere around 5. Couple times a day. When people are not well, if they come into me with autoimmune diseases, sometimes I'll have them take 10 4 times a day, just away from food. If you take it with food, it's used digesting the food, which is a good thing, but I want these being absorbed going into the bloodstream to digest debris, cellular debris of all types. Next, olive rex. Olive rex is a group of botanicals designed around supporting your immune system against viruses. And it works really well. And last, biocidin spray. Biocidin spray, that's what I've been traveling with for over 30 years. Anytime I get on a plane, I take biocidin. They're botanical herbs that are used to antibacterial, antifungal, antiviral. Some guy behind me on the plane coughs, and if he was just in Mozambique and he coughs dengue fever bugs in the air and I inhale them, I'd give myself some biocidin spray when I got on the plane. Or if somebody's coughing, I might do another hit. And when kids have sore throats, I have them use it every waking hour. So these are things I call the attack bundle. There's much more that you can use, much more, but these are things that I know work, and they work really well. So what if this virus gets the best of your immune system? You take action. Listen to the Cuomo video that talks about the mindset that you use, but you take action and make sure nothing on your fork is inflammatory. We talked about testing yesterday in the armed forces and what does it mean to test for this thing, and that there's many different tests out there. Well, and the tests that we want are IgA, IgG, and IgM against 4 different components of the virus. As many components you need. This is the most comprehensive test I know that's out there right now from Vibrant Wellness. The blood test is out there for blood draws. For those of you, you can call your doctor and go in and get a blood draw. We hope to know by next week if the finger prick test has been approved by the FDA. All of the evidence right now is that the results are looking good. So I'm very hopeful, and we'll know next week. If you're interested in the finger prick test, just send us a message. Honey, where to? Honey, where to? Ask, theDr.com/ask, and just say finger prick test. I'm interested, and we'll let you know when that's available. Extra base hits. Tomorrow, I'm going to do Q&A. At the same time, you have to bring your coffee. I'm doing Q&A, and I've got a very special guest tomorrow, frontline doctor who's been dealing with this for the last 2 months to answer questions across the board, from the very traditional in the ER, doing respirators, what do I do, to being a holistic, comprehensive functional medicine practitioner. So we'll be on here together tomorrow at the same time. Remember to keep your fork glowing with colors of the rainbow. Remember about heading in the direction of the Blue Zone lifestyle. Just start doing little baby steps right now. And once again, all the transcripts, all the videos, all the slides, all the studies are available for you at theDr.com. What's the URL for this? theDr.com/coffee. And I don't remember the URLs. So anyway, I'm glad Marzi's here to tell us. And if you cannot afford the $37 for these for the entire week, just hit the button that says scholarship. And all you have to do is tell us, how are you going to pay it forward? If you don't, or you can't pay us for this so that I can keep my staff working, that's fine. How are you going to pay it forward? That's what I want to know. And then we're happy to share all the information with you we've got. Thanks so very much, everyone. Look forward to seeing you at the same time tomorrow. Take care of yourselves.